Hello, I'm Crickets, and welcome back to I Have a Story. So, I've talked about it a couple of times about how my first wife trapped me, and I'm here today to tell you how. I need to get these stories out of the way. This isn't easy for me to sit here and talk about all this and do this, but it needs to be done. So, in my video that I'm airing yesterday about being a country boy in the city, what struck me with and why I got with her. We both worked at Pizza Hut when we were teenagers. I was a delivery driver, she made pizza. One day she went to leave and her car wouldn't start. And she called her mom and her stepdad, came back into the store, and I said, "What, your car won't start? Here, let me go take a look at it." And I went out and got it running for her and fixed it. Something I did for a lot of drivers at that Pizza Hut was right next door was a automotive store, and I would take breaks from delivering and I would fix people's cars. Part of how I got the skin disorder. Right now, you see it a lot more in the summertime, but I have a skin disorder because when I was doing that job, I would get greasy. I didn't want to deliver pizzas covered in grease, so I would fix cars and then go back in the kitchen and take Brillo pads and scrub the grease off of me. And according to doctors, when I was doing that, I took layers of skin off my body, and now I'm stuck with this skin disorder. Silly me. Supposed to be a man. Har har. We stand up and, well, we hurt ourselves and do dumb things. That's part of being a man. But after I fixed her car and it started, the radio turned on and I heard country music. I said, "You listen to country music?" She said, "Yeah, man. I love country music." Whoa, somebody that I actually have something in common with that is really big to me, which is me being a country boy in a city and trying to find somebody who's a country person, period. Especially listening to country music. So we started dating. Her family is awesome. They're amazing people. They were like the family I wish I would have had. As messed up as they are, there's no such thing as perfect, and a lot of strange things, I'll just say, took place with that family. But they were country folk, and they lived like a family. They did everything together. Vacations, every year we went on vacation, we were going with her family everywhere we went. And to tell you how evil of a monster I am, I was with her for 10 years. I'm such a horrible monster that every family vacation and trip, it was always planned around fishing, which, yay, I love that, and gambling. I hate gambling. Then we'd come up northern Michigan. Ludington area was one of our big spots that we would go to every year, and all the adults would go off to the casino. And her younger brother, who was not old enough to go to the casino, him and I would stay with all the family's kids while every other adult went to the casinos and gambled year after year. They knew me. They told me that I was more of a son than their daughter was to some of the people in that family after we got divorced. And she asked me not to spend time with her family anymore, which was funny because in our marriage, she was the most unbelievably jealous person I've ever met in my life, who I've ever been with. So insanely jealous. And I was only allowed to be friends with her family throughout our marriage. I had to give up all my friends, and I did because either I'm a dumb guy or I'm just that loyal and true to my partner. So I did everything. Her stepdad and I, we bowled together, played softball together. We were at horseshoe league together. We did all of that on leagues together. We fished 3 to 5 days a week together. Her stepdad and I were like best friends. I loved him. He was a great guy. But how did she trap me? Well, when we first got together, she was telling me stories about how her stepdad was sexually abusive to her. Which, after I got to know him and got to know the family, it was all a lie. It was all a trap. And then she told me she wanted to move away. In the very beginning, for the first couple of years, we were not. I was not allowed around her family. It was we were. high school kids. She was a senior in high school my first year I graduated, and we partied. And that's a mainstay of what our life was going out with people and partying. I can also tell you, I talked about how I am a very romantic guy and I love to romance a woman. I love flowers and my woman to come home unexpectedly to have a table set up with flowers and romantic music on the radio and cook a meal. And I love doing that kind of stuff. I only ever did that for her twice, and both times I got shut down. The first time, I still remember, we had this blue card table and I set it up in the dining room. Flowers, put a tablecloth over it, had flowers, candlelights, Kenny G on the radio, and her favorite meal, which was boneless, skinless chicken breast, marinated in Italian dressing, mashed potatoes, and gravy. And that was. She didn't eat vegetables, and she was not a healthy eater by any means, and you can tell that by looking at her today. She looked at me and said, "What, you think you're getting some tonight? Ha, you ain't getting none." The things that woman did to me, absolutely insane. Heck, I still have to talk about my 21st birthday. I already talked about the other two big birthdays in our lives. I'll share that one. Maybe I'll make that video next. She quit taking her birth control behind my back and didn't tell me about it. And she got pregnant. One day I walk into her parents' house shortly after that, and her and her mom were sitting at the dining room table planning a wedding. I will sit down to take a lie detector test to all of this. Heck, I don't even know if her mom would lie if we asked her mom about this story. I certainly know her stepdad wouldn't. I walk into her parents' house. Her and her mom are sitting at the dining room table planning a wedding. We have a hall booked for this day. We've got this planned for that. We're going to look at all the different things that they were going to look at. I don't know. They were sitting there planning out a full wedding. And I walked in and said, "Who's getting married?" And her mom looked at me with a smile on her face and laughed as she said, "You are silly." Those were her words. Her stepdad immediately got up and walked in and said, into the kitchen. The kitchen and dining room were basically almost one room. He said, "Wait, you didn't know anything about this?" "Nope, this is the first I've heard of it." He looked at them and said, "You bitchs aren't going to ruin his life. He didn't propose to you. You're doing this behind his back." And he went nuts. Her mom and stepdad actually got separated over it. He walked out the door and went and stayed at his dad's house over it because he loved me. And he knew what kind of person she was. And couldn't believe that she just plan a wedding and do all that behind my back. I didn't even know I was getting married. We were living in an apartment complex at the time, and we lived together, and I cared about her. But after I found out she was lying to me, she told me from the very beginning, before I was allowed to meet her family, that she wanted to move away. She didn't want to stay in Toledo, which I couldn't stand living in Toledo. I wanted out since I was a teenager. Come to find out, it was all a lie. Once she got pregnant, had me wrapped around her finger. She no longer wanted to move. "No, we're staying here. I never wanted to move. No, that's not the lifestyle I wanted. I just played you like a fiddle." Then we went home that night, and she sat crying to me. "You don't want to marry me. You don't love me." Wait, this is all unexpected. I don't even know how to take this in right now. And she even told me straight up that she quit taking her birth control behind my back so that she could get pregnant so I couldn't leave her. And I tried many times, and she'd go hunt me down and stalk me. You know, ask my brother. Locked ourselves in the basement of my parents' house. She's beating on the window, screaming and yelling. I broke up with her again, and she knew that I always went to my grandparents' house for Halloween and helped them pass out candy before I had kids. And she went over there on Halloween. I got back with her again. God, am I stupid. I am so stupid. She would always cry and make me feel bad. I'm such a flippin' sucker. I'm a sucker for victims. I'm a sucker for women. emotions, but I don't want to change that in me because it's what makes me the good person that I am. And I don't want to become a victim to everything that has abused me to push me away from that person because it's going to break me if I do. So then I agreed to marry her. A week before the wedding, she had a miscarriage. Then I thought, whew, get out of this marriage. I don't have to get married now. But then she cried and cried. And I couldn't tell her no. At our wedding, I was nowhere to be found. At our God, my head doesn't even want to think right now. The party after the wedding, I can't even think of the name of it right now. Whatever you want to. I was nowhere to be found. I was out getting high in the parking lot, smoking joint after joint. I remember right before my brother was my best man. We were standing at the church, getting ready to go walk down the aisle. My brother and his best friend at the time said, "If you're going to marry this beep, you're going to get high as a kite and have an excuse for saying yes because you were too high to say no. Because if you're going to marry that, dude, you're going the wrong way." We were actually standing outside the door of the church, waiting to get called down the aisle when smoking a joint when the pastor popped his head out the door and said, "Hey, it's time for put that out. You can't have that in church. What are you guys doing?" My brother looked at him and said, "If he's going to marry her, he's got to have an excuse." Everybody knew it. Everybody knew it, including her own family. Her whole family said to me, "Why? Why? Why are you with her? We know she's evil. You're a good man. We love you. You don't deserve what she's going to put you through." God, she put me through it. Oh my God. I mean, hindsight, if I'd have known what was coming. But I always thought I had rights. Even if things did go worse, that I could get away. Even after she got pregnant again. We had a son. Because that was going to make our marriage so much better, is what she told me. Let's have a kid. That's going to make our marriage better. And I was one that, especially back the old school roots that I have, once you're married, you're married. You make it work. You find ways to make it work. You don't just walk away and be selfish. Especially when you have a kid afterwards. It was all a lie, all a trap. And then I thought, oh my God, my son was only 2 weeks old when she hit him for the first time. He was crying and she slapped him, called me at work crying. I had to leave work and go home because she hit him because he was crying. God, that was just the start of the abuse.